Hope everyone's having a wonderful week so far. I'm seeing the snow just ever so slightly melt in my end of the woods. We got around 38 inches down here near Providence. So we officially beat the record of 78 that my mother and father talk about every winter. So now I can say, we beat you. But yes, just a little fun that we have down here. I believe we are still waiting for the commissioner to join us, and more folks are trickling in. We should have around 80 people at this meeting today. Since it is a combined meeting between our workforce council and our advisory council. So there are going to be several folks on this meeting. And I got barely any out of office when I sent out the meeting invite. So this is a good week. All right. See. I hope everyone received the revised deck that I sent out. That's also posted on the website. The meeting recording will be posted on the website as well. I will be sending out a follow-up email after this just to make sure that everyone has that readily accessible for their own viewing if they choose to. Just waiting on the commish here. Does anybody have any fun spring plans? I'm taking my 14-month-old on her first or her second plane ride on Saturday. So if anyone has any tips and tricks with flying with a 14-year-old, I'd love to hear them. I've heard everything from bring as many snacks as you can to get them as tuckered out as possible before the plane ride.
Oh, I say just bring lots of things to amuse them and
Yeah,
food.
yeah,
Don't do the sleep thing because God, then they won't sleep and you'll be in a world of pain. Yeah, no.
yeah, yeah. I've heard like big jumbo crayons. I've heard a lot of stickers. So I'm really just hoping that there are going to be some nice and understanding folks on the plane with us.
Gosh, I hope so. My children traveled well. Hopefully yours will.
Window cleaning.
Knock on wood, knock on everything. Oh,
Where are
Michelle,
you
what is
going?
that? Oh, we're going on vacation with my parents. We're going to the Bahamas actually. So we are very excited, but also very nervous.
Gosh, isn't that several flights?
It is. Yep, but we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to take it one flight at a
Mm.
time. Pipe cleaners, that's a great idea. It's a great idea. Tape, yes. Painter's tape. We've heard that all different colors. Hmm. Yeah, we gotta just go with the flow. Well, I appreciate everyone's recommendations. I'll update everyone at the next advisory council and workforce council. All right, I just got word that the commissioner is coming on now.
I'm here. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, trying to sort out the technology in my temporary office.
Don't worry, commish, I just got some really great advice for flying with
I heard it. I heard it all.
yep. So I'm excited.
That is pretty exciting, and I hope it'll be great weather when you get there. Yeah, we
Crossing
used to
every
go to
finger.
like the dollar store and buy like a giant bag, and every 15 minutes you just pull out another, right? Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Maybe you already got that one.
So I'm
Who's speaking?
officially passing the baton to you.
Mm. Thanks so much. Good afternoon, everyone. We're really excited to see you, and thanks for being flexible on the schedule. This will be one of our combined workforce and advisory council meetings, and we wanted to do that because we're really excited that actually today, is it out yet, Dana? It's out?
It's live on the website. The press release has not gone out yet, but it is live.
Okay, so the Year 2 Task Force, Early Education and Childcare Interagency Task Force report is live. So someone will drop it in the chat, I'm sure, for not just the hosts and panelists, but for everyone. Press release will be going out about that. So really excited to have a joint meeting. We felt like it was important to share updates on where we are on Year 2 with everyone jointly together. So great, thanks, Eugenia. So we'll kick off with that today. And then we have an update. We've been talking to both councils about our family portal and also our professional portal. We've been calling it an educator portal, but good upgrade in the name to professional portal. We have some updates on sort of shifting timelines for that. And then I will say for the members who are just exclusively part of the advisory committee, you may leave for the last agenda item if you wish. We have a legislative reporting requirement associated with our workforce development efforts that we are legislatively and statutorily required to consult with the Workforce Council. You're also all welcome to stay. But the very last agenda item will be walking through really what is it to comply with that reporting requirement to report on the work that's already happening around workforce development. So we will be ticking the statutory required box by consulting with this group around that legislative report. So look forward to that as well. No other real significant updates from the agency. Just reminding everyone we have a board meeting next week. We'll be in Quincy. As usual, it'll be live streamed, and also we welcome public comment. For anyone who would like to join us, the agenda will include an update on the interagency task force, same as the one you all will have hot off the press hearing first today. And then we're also going to have a focus on the Commonwealth Preschool Partnership Initiative, or the CPPI program. We're going to be in Quincy. We'll hear from our Quincy partners who are working on CPPI and kind of the state of preschool access in general. And then our third agenda item we're excited to kind of dig into, which was also partially inspired or initiated by legislative reporting requirements, is around family, friend, and neighbor care. We typically call it informal care or ICC at EEC, but there's been a lot of work at the agency, a lot of organizing in the community around the important role of family, friend, and neighbor care and ways that we can really elevate and support this important part of our system. Many families are making the choice to use family, friend, and neighbor care. It has not typically been part of sort of EEC's formal structure and system, except for a very small part in child care financial assistance. So if you're interested in that, I would encourage you all to listen in on the board meeting or attend if you can, and that'll be something we'll be discussing over a period of time. We will have our budget testimony. You know, the governor's budget is out, and all of the agencies do testify in front of a joint Ways and Means Committee in support of the governor's budget. That is scheduled for the 23rd of March, and we'll look forward to joining our education colleagues and our other agencies to talk about the governor's investment in EEC budget and across the education continuum. Okay, I think that is the end of my updates, and welcoming all the members of our committee, and Senator Kennedy is joining us. That's awesome. Thank you for being here. And I think with that, Addison, are you driving?
Yes, I am.
All right. Any questions from members? Comments or questions? Okay, why don't we dig right in? So I'm excited to be joined and Addison, go right to the agenda. I think I covered what we were going to talk about today. And we are starting with an update on the Interagency Early Education and Childcare Task Force. Excited to share kind of what's happened over the course of the past year. Go to the next slide. And I'm also really excited that we're joined today by members of our incredible project management team that hail from various corners of state government. So Dana Sullivan from Administration Finance, who's been leading our interagency project management team, Gabby Goldstein, who is sort of situated at DEC, but working across economic development and labor and workforce development. I saw Faith Ambrose on also, who has been sitting in the Executive Office of Education and participating in the project management team. And we are missing our own Emily Connor Simon, who is away getting married. So we are missing her today, but she is not missing us. Did I miss any of the project management team, Dana, who's here today?
I think Ashley and Montserrat might be here somewhere.
Oh, terrific. Okay, so why don't Ashley and Montserrat, do you just want to introduce yourselves? Because I'm not sure, this group has probably met Faith and Dana before, as well as Emily and Gabby. But Ashley and Montserrat, we have some help from Accenture, help supporting the task force work and the project management team. Do you want to just introduce yourselves real quick?
Thanks for having us. I'm Ashley Carlton, as Commissioner said, supporting project management task force work from Accenture, but happy to be here and supporting all things and all the great things you're doing. I don't know, Montserrat, are you on?
It does not look like Montserrat is here with us right now.
Oh, he may be in the Fargo. Okay, well, Ashley's been a great addition to the team. We've been excited to get a chance to work with her, and we will through year 2 as well. So just quick background, and then I'll turn over the team to share some of the exciting highlights and sort of the structure of the report that you'll be able to now look at online. Many of you are aware this is an executive order signed by the governor to really create a whole of government approach, chaired by the Secretaries of Education, Economic Development, and Labor and Workforce Development, with representation from every single secretariat across state government. And the whole purpose is really to advance and continue to transform resources and opportunities and identify challenges across the early education and care sector that could be addressed not just within EEC and within the work that we do in our budget, but really across state government. So where there are opportunities in different agencies, existing opportunities that could be leveraged to support early education and care better, or new resources and opportunities that could be addressed. And we've made some incredible progress. Most of you are aware the first year was really a lot of learning. We were looking at other states. We were doing listening sessions. We were assessing kind of the current state of things. We were building relationships and introducing early education and care and some of the key challenges and opportunities that are happening in the sector to our colleagues across state government. Year 2 has seen us really roll up our sleeves and double down in this interagency project management structure to begin to take action around what were 31 actionable recommendations that came out of the first year. We have over the course of the year kind of merged some recommendations and put some different ones together that made sense as we got deeper into them and began to really engage with our state agency partners. We are rounding the corner on year 2 and getting ready to launch year 3. We anticipate waiting for our new Secretary of Education to join us here in state government so that we can have a launch of year 3. So look for an event happening, we hope, in early May, where we'll be kind of transitioning from this year 2 focus into year 3, which will be about going deeper into some of the recommendations we have, refining those, and really thinking about sustainability for the work of the task force going forward. Okay, as in the next slide, we'll just give everyone the QR code and where you can find the new task force report, which I'm going to hand it over to Dana to walk through kind of what you can expect. And I'll just say again, like, we've been so fortunate to have the leadership of Dana Sullivan. I think it's really made an incredible difference in terms of the engagement across state government and our ability to make progress, that this has had commitment from literally the highest level of state government and seated within administration and finance. I think Dana has been masterful in making sure everyone continues to show up for childcare and meet the commitments that they made in the first year. So Dana, I'm going to turn it over to you, and just thank you again for your leadership.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. I'm actually going to hand this part off to Faith Ambrose, a member of our project management team, who's going to walk you through the report structure. But the Commissioner and the EEC team have been essential in helping us get this across, as well as our partners across state government. And everyone we've reached out to outside of state government has been really excited to work with us. And that's a lot of you all here on this call. I'm seeing a lot of familiar names and organizations. So just thank you all for the support. And we're really looking forward to continuing the partnership. Faith, do you want to take it from here?
Yes, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Faith Ambrose. I'm a policy manager within the Executive Office of Education, and I have the pleasure of serving as a project manager for our project management team under the task force. I'm here to help orient you to the report that you'll hopefully dig into at some point after today's meeting. When you open the report, you'll see that it's split into 4 key areas: access and affordability, quality, sustainable business, and workforce. The Year 2 report is meant to give a progress update on each of the recommendations within these 4 key areas. You'll find that under each key area, there is an aspirational vision for that key area, and then you'll see each recommendation listed with its status, progress, and next steps. And just to give a little more background information on the status of each of the recommendations, you'll see a progress bar next to each of them that will say scoping, developing, implementing, or integrated. If a recommendation is in the scoping phase, it means that we're still defining the project plan and metrics for success. If you see that a recommendation is developing, we're building upon that proposed solution and project plan. Implementing means, of course, that we're starting to roll out that solution, and integrated just means that this has now been incorporated into ongoing agency operations, whether that be EEC or another state agency. And then we can go to the next slide. Here you can see at a quick glance each of our recommendations that are within the report, broken into each key issue area, with a quick status update on each of these recommendations, whether they're in scoping, developing, implementing, or integrated. Once again, the report is live. We hope that you do take a moment to go and dive in and hear all of the great highlights that we have from the past year of work on these recommendations. And I will now pass it to Gabby to talk to us about some of those highlights. Thanks.
Hi, everyone, this is Gabby. I think this is actually Ashley, and then I'll go.
I think this one's yours, Gabby. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No, you're fine. Okay, so as far as the Year 2 highlights go, one that we're very excited to present to all of you in partnership with the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce is the expanded use of registered apprenticeship programs in early ed. So via this partnership, we received the SAFE 3 competitive grant from the U.S. Department of Labor for $5 million to rapidly scale these apprenticeship programs. In round 1, we issued $1.8 million to 8 organizations to scale the early education workforce and place over 300 apprentices. I think a big reason we highlighted this once again is really the partnership with labor and workforce, in particular the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. And it's really served as a model for how agencies can work together to bring respective expertises to the table and really scale these existing programs. Next slide, please. Okay. Another highlight that I'm excited to bring to you all is around the Employer Child Care Innovation Fund. I think I came and presented on this well over a year ago, so I'll give a refresher on what this is. But through the FY25 budget, EEC was awarded $2.5 million to put towards an employer-supported child care grant that would be matched at 1-to-1 with the grantees. So it's $5 million in total to be put to work. This can be in combination of cash and in-kind donations. And really what's exciting about this grant is, once again, that cross-agency collaboration. So this is a collaboration between EEC, the Executive Office of Economic Development, and the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce. And within the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce, we procured a partnership with the Commonwealth Corporation Foundation, which is a quasi-public agency really focused on labor and workforce initiatives for the Commonwealth. To bring us up to speed on where we've come since we've last met, we've designed the grant. We put it out in fall of 2025. We put out a request for an expression of interest. We decided to roll this out in a two-phase approach, just given really the innovative nature of the grant itself. We wanted to give folks an opportunity to put forth their ideas, be able to come to us with questions, an opportunity for feedback, and really roll out the RFP following that. In winter of 2026, so just now, we put out the requests for proposals, or the RFP. And at the moment, we've had a bidders webinar, FAQ session, office hours. So once again, we're really making ourselves quite available for this grant opportunity. And we're anticipating awarding 3 to 5 grants ranging from $250,000 to $1 million in summer of 2026. We received 37 EOIs back in the fall across every region of the Commonwealth, across all business sizes, large, medium, and small, and across all industries as well. And then finally, just to recap the goals of this grant, it is really threefold. So it's one, to expand access to affordable, high-quality childcare for working caregivers in the Commonwealth. The second is to expand capacity in the early education childcare space. And finally, it's to incentivize employers to advance family-friendly policies, and to do this really in a collaborative way between providers, employers, and the community and the state. Okay. So here are, so we're going to dive into a couple more highlights from year 2. The first is around providing startup support to FCC providers with the FCC capital grants. And this was done in partnership with Mass Development, quasi-public agency at EOED. Very, very excited to present this. In round 1, we awarded $2.7 million to over 150 family child care educators, and in round 2, $4 million in new funding. Mass Development are really the experts in capital grants, in kind of real estate development, you name it, from micro, large, small businesses, and they brought a ton of expertise to this grant program in this iteration of it, and we're very, very grateful for their partnership. I know there were a lot of applications and a ton of interest for this program, and very, very excited with this for what this means to the FCC community. As far as increasing access to broadband, this was a great partnership with the Executive Office of Economic Development, in particular the Massachusetts Broadband Institute, also known as MBI, within the Mass Tech Collaborative. So this is exciting, I think, because this is a program that EOED Mass Tech was putting out, and really because of the task force and the partnership that we've had with the agency, they thought to include us very proactively. And so the program manager at MBI, EOED came together with EEC and rolled out a number of webinar overviews, really educated EEC educators on what this opportunity meant. And because of that, we were awarded, or educators were awarded, 522 devices to early education and care providers. And I believe the program manager also said that the applications they read coming in from EEC were some of the most really innovative ones that they saw, and they're really excited to see that. And a special thank you to Eugenia and the team who worked very quickly to roll out these informational webinars to ensure that our educators knew about the opportunity. In partnership with the Mass Cultural Council, this is one of Emily's babies. I know Emily's out getting married, as we mentioned, but I'll try and do her justice. But the agency partnered with Mass Cultural Council to offer discounts that had previously existed for K through 12 educators. We will now be also including EEC educators, which is very exciting, and providing that same opportunity that the K through 12 space is offered now to EEC providers. This was something we heard, I think, loud and clear in the listening sessions, just about that equal opportunity to affordability opportunities. And we're very grateful to the Mass Cultural Council for partnering with us on this one. Okay. Once again, through a partnership with the with the Executive Office of Economic Development. Well, let me roll this back, actually, or bring it a step back. So the Executive Office of Economic Development stood up what they have named the Business Front Door. And it's a one-stop shop for all businesses in the Commonwealth to come and really, if they want to start, grow, or move a business to the Commonwealth, they're able to have a single point of contact to learn about all the possible resources and grants and information they may need to do that. Traditionally, I don't know that we would have necessarily been initially included in the rollout of a platform like this, but because of our relationship with EOED and because of the relationships that the task force, I think, has facilitated, we're really grateful to have childcare businesses included as a key business type in this first iteration of the Business Front Door. We're continuing to receive inquiries within the Business Front Door. I have served as the initial navigator to really test the platform and understand what types of requests we might be getting in. And we're very excited that we now get to bring on a dedicated early education and care navigator. And the role has actually already been posted, and we're getting a ton of interest on that role. As of this morning, I think we had 35 applicants come through to the role itself. And then I will wrap up with final two. So in collaboration with MassDOT, so the Department of Transportation, we've identified some appropriate traffic safety approaches to safety zones. So this is an interesting one that came to us. Early child care educators had voiced that because they aren't considered a K through 12 program, they aren't able to gain access to the same signage that schools traditionally have around school safety zones. And we're concerned, particularly those on busy roads and busy streets, that it might pose safety concerns for their community, particularly children and caregivers. And so in collaboration with MassDOT, the folks at EEC and the task force were able to come up with a really, I think, appropriate approach to the challenge in identifying a traffic zone and safety zones whereby we can alleviate some of those concerns for educators and what they're seeing with their again in terms of bringing more safety to their communities. And finally, we have been hearing for a little while concerns from the community as it relates to access and affordability for liability insurance. And through a partnership with the Department of Insurance, DOI has put together a cross-agency group that is DOI, DCF, and EEC included in that group to really come together. Yes, we can come back to that. To really come together to explore one, the challenge that educators are facing today in being able to access liability insurance. We're also looking at solutions in other states because we've learned very quickly that this is not specific to Massachusetts. It's something we're seeing really broadly across the country. And coming together to identify both short-term and longer-term solutions that we can work on together. Are we answering questions throughout the meeting or at the end?
Go ahead. I'm happy to take the safety zone 2-1, or if you want to answer it,
No,
Gabby.
you can go ahead.
So as Gabby said, we worked with Mass DOT, and we originally came in just based on the feedback we got from listening sessions, like we want school zones by early education and care programs, and they were able to help us identify that there are something called safety zones, which are around other sensitive areas like maybe nursing homes or elder care communities, and that would be a more appropriate because it wouldn't be as time banded as schools. So we worked with them on a flyer. Now, a lot of the safety zones get created at the local level. So the whole point of this is to give information and resources to local programs so that they'll be able to seek the creation of safety zones at the local level that make the sense for them. So the flyer, when we get it refined, and we'll use some of our existing policy groups to kind of check the language and make sure it's accessible and understandable to our early education and care programs. And then we'll be able to kind of distribute that out so that people have the information about how to seek that kind of safety zone around their program in their community. There's been a lot of interesting parts of the recommendations that have sort of state government implications, but also state and local. So some of this is about empowering our providers with the information they need to take the actions. But we were able to learn from the state level Department of Transportation sort of the best way to go about that and how they might support the providers in seeking safety zones. So that'll be something that we'll refine and then distribute out in partnership with some of our key stakeholders. I think it'll be a good plan. We'll see if it works. Maybe the first safety zone that gets created, we'll go for a visit and see how it's working out. I think we have one more set of highlights on recommendations, and then we'll talk a little bit about next steps, and then happy to have kind of some discussion as well. Dana, back to you.
Thanks so much. So a couple more highlights, and again, there were almost 30, so we didn't pull them all in here, but we pulled some that we felt were the most impactful. But feel free to look at the report and reach out if you have any questions for the rest of them. Thank you so much, Gabby, for providing that insight. So a couple on this slide. Expanding access to healthcare benefits is something that we heard over and over again in our listening sessions. And so we worked with the Massachusetts Health Connector team this year to talk about the Health Connector for Business. And we ran a series of webinars reaching over 200 educators in multiple languages, which was really exciting. And we got really great feedback. We're working on a second set of webinars with the Health Connector and Mass Health to explain options for individuals and businesses, because that was a theme that kept coming up in the questions in our sessions. So we're excited about that. We've been working with the Department of Children and Families and their family resource centers to coordinate with the Coordinated Family and Community Engagement Network at EEC to make sure that we have some shared resources, and that's been really successful. And then one of the groups that the commissioner has been leading is our higher education on increased accessibility of childcare on campus program. We've been meeting with leaders from all across public universities and community colleges to discuss the importance of childcare and identify ways to support creation of more childcare on campuses. which is really exciting. We have a working group that's been really engaged with us, and so more to come there. And then if we can go to the next slide, just looking ahead into year 3. So we just received the Early Childhood Governance and Finance Project award. We're part of the 2026 cohort with a couple of other states. We're really excited about it. So the funding is going to help us strengthen the task force project management support. But really what this comes with is not just funding, but it's a cohort for us to learn from other states and create relationships outside of Massachusetts to learn from best practices. And so we are very excited about that as we sort of transition from year 2 of the task force into our final year to start looking ahead and thinking about how can we make sure that the work we're doing now doesn't stop when the task force sunsets in a year. And so, Commissioner, if you want to take it from here and talk a little bit about our vision for year 3 in the future.
Absolutely. I want to just pause too and say, and I think we can stop sharing the slides for a minute. That I think what's been really unique about the task force, and I'm so happy to see some of the highlights of the recommendations. Part of the goal here was really to kind of turn over every rock across different parts of state government and see what kind of resources already existed within healthcare or transportation or business supports, and figure out, or registered apprenticeships, and figure out how those systems could be adapted or changed or made more accessible to the early education and care sector. So I think you can see that some of these projects are really about going and finding existing resources that we can make more available. We can translate, we can create a connection between early education and care needs and an existing resource. And then there's some new resources that were developed. And I think there's so many of the things that are on this list that just wouldn't have happened at the scale or with the depth and expertise across state government if we hadn't had the task force. So I think about the Family Child Care Capital Grant Program in partnership with Mass Development. So we have the child care expertise. We could have set that program up, but they have an expertise in sort of how do you fund capital investment projects for people who don't have a lot of capital to do that. And connecting it to mass development means there's a connection to potentially home ownership programs and other kinds of opportunities for some of our family child care businesses in particular. I don't think we ever would have had those enabled devices gone to 522 early education care programs if the task force hadn't existed and had been elevating the issue of don't forget our sector. And here's a sector that's important to the economic development and the workforce strategy of the Commonwealth. And I'm really excited about the childcare on campuses. And so are the campuses themselves. Now, the community colleges and the 4-year state colleges have a lot of demands on their capital investments and all the funds in their programs. So we've been starting by working to understand where are there resources existing on many of our campuses for staff and faculty and for students. And then working with those who are in a position to kind of partner with us. Many programs also have early education and care programs. So really creating a statewide strategy around working with the community colleges, meeting with them where they are, and then providing technical assistance and support to go from wherever they are in terms of providing early education and care and moving that further along. And the data is really compelling, like in terms of the student outcomes when there is childcare that's provided. In terms of completion rates and retention rates, and really having students who are feeding high demand sectors because they were able to have access to childcare and complete degree or certificate programs as a result. So year 2 has been sort of digging into the recommendations, finding where there's rich soil that we can continue to build from. And in that context, you can see some of these recommendations are in the early stages. Some are in a more deeply scoped phase. And so what we expect from year 3, and, the door is not closed on new recommendations. So this field is evolving quickly. The needs are evolving quickly. So we're still open to additional recommendations as we go forward. But this work won't be done after year 3. But what's happened in terms of the creation of relationships across state government, the elevation of the issue, the recognition by our partners across state government that early education and care and advancement in this sector is everyone's responsibility. I feel like we've reached a tipping point on that, thanks to the work of the task force and our co-chairs and our amazing project management team. So this year will be dedicated to kind of continuing progress around each of the recommendations and then thinking about a sustainable structure going forward that can maintain some of these interagency responsibilities and staffing that have brought these resources. So there's no end date technically. I think the task force itself is a 3-year. So as it currently is configured, it may end after year 3, but the work to integrate early education and care as a priority across state government and across all of our secretariats will continue. So let me stop there and thank the team and encourage everyone to go take a look at the report. Hopefully you'll be able to join us at the event when it gets scheduled, and open to questions and concerns, suggestions. We always like accolades. That's open for that too. We see Head Start offering to help with community colleges. Thank you, Michelle. President Podell.
Thanks, Commissioner. Of course, I'm going to speak on behalf of community colleges, and we're very focused on the needs of our students primarily, secondarily our employees for childcare. And we know the relationship between childcare and great student outcomes. At the same time, those of us who don't already have childcare centers are in no position to create them because we have physical needs that are very urgent, like laboratories that are outdated and falling apart and deferred maintenance, et cetera, that we hope the BRIGHT Act will help address. At Mass Bay, we've addressed this issue through childcare scholarships. So students can get scholarships and then can arrange their own childcare in places that are convenient for them. Many of our colleges are multi-campus colleges. So if we at Mass Bay were to put a childcare center in Framingham, it would do no good for our students in Wellesley or Ashland. So of course, it's complex, like everything in life. So the need is very great. I'm not hearing about any new resources for childcare. Alas, we do our childcare funding through raising private donor dollars, primarily. Sometimes we can get some state money, but seldom. So the problem is bigger and more complex than creating childcare centers on each college campus.
Yeah, and that came through loud and clear on our working group. So I think the strategy for childcare accessibility expansion for our community college students and the 4-year students and the faculty and staff is going to be campus by campus. And it will, in some cases, require new resources. At some point with this group, we talked a little bit about what the Itsy Bitsy childcare program in Holyoke, which was largely at least capital funded by community foundations in the area, and then ongoing funding identified by the college itself, kind of based on the outcomes they found. So our plan with the colleges is really to engage at a campus by campus level and see what makes the most sense for you. We have lots of campuses where students are commuters or live in other parts of the state, but might attend. So scholarships like you're providing might make sense for some students, and on campus might make sense for some faculty. So I imagine this will be a multi-year effort. And I think the recognition that most of the campuses need funding just to update their existing facilities, and that, we may need to be talking about additional resources, either from the public or private sector, to make new investments in childcare will be something that I think that working group will definitely be talking about. So I know there's a worry from the campuses that we're going to turn around and say, do it within your existing resources. And I think we're really committed to working with the campuses on meeting them where they are. But I will say the excitement in that group for having an opportunity to have this conversation and identify ways to better meet the childcare needs of their students, I feel hopeful and optimistic, excited about that work, even if it might take time. And it's a great example of something that will not be done at the end of the executive order, but something that I think we'll have to carry on longer. So appreciate your comments and perspectives as well. Right. Kim Davenport sharing some of her experiences here in the chat too, right? I think each of the campuses has a really unique, both geographic and student population that will require a unique solution. And we're kind of committed to working with each campus one by one. And sometimes there'll be partners who can come in, whether it's the WISE or Head Start or other folks. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to think about how to do this work collaboratively. Steve.
Thanks. This is really a comprehensive document, which is great. It hits to a lot of fields, as they say. The piece of feedback I'd like to offer is around the development of affordable housing and connecting childcare centers or home educators to affordable housing. I didn't look too closely at the details. I apologize. But there are federal restrictions that do get in the way of that for home educators. We don't have any home educators in any of our affordable housing portfolio because it's too close to conflict of interest HUD regulations. So it's important to kind of flag that in the back of your head. We only put home educators in our market rate portfolio, not our affordable housing portfolio. And then there was also a mention of housing authorities, and no housing authorities responded. We have 2 centers, both in housing authority neighborhoods, one in Holyoke, one in Chicopee. And the number of residents of housing authorities that qualify for financial assistance through EEC is very, 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 very low. So there's some kind of pushes and pulls with how the sausage is made that absolutely impact those 2 groups that are important to flag early. We have the sites because we learned the lesson the hard way. We worked with the housing authority, built nice centers, only to find that most of their residents don't qualify for financial assistance. So, just those sorts of things are important to flag. But the idea of including in low-income communities childcare is really, really good and should not be lost in the couple of things, the couple of potential pitfalls.
So we didn't highlight it because I think, obviously one of the recommendations was how do we better integrate sort of the immense need for housing and housing development and childcare. And it is one of the key top recommendations here. We didn't include a highlight on it because, as you've pointed out, it is a hard and complicated issue. But I see Eric Mitchell from Pathways. They've figured out how to do this in the site that I think we're going to be highlighting and trying to learn from. So, Eric, I'm happy to have you jump on and talk about it too. But we are actively working with housing and livable communities to think about what potential opportunities there may be. It might not be every housing authority, but I think there are ways we can learn. Are there changes that need to be made, or are there opportunities where we can start to have expectations of developers, and especially if they're funded from our partners across state government. So, Eric, do you want to jump in, and then I'll invite Dana or others from the project management team to update a little bit more on where we are on that recommendation.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner. I'll just follow up and say we are fortunate to have a housing developer, Harborlight Homes, that we are partnering with that work to get predominantly privately funded community center supported by large grant funds from EEC for us to do a joint project in Beverly, which has been phenomenal. I also wanted to add, Steve, that Salem Housing Authority just closed an RFP where they put out a housing and services component as well. And I believe Beacon won that award. So our partnership team did not win, but it was very encouraging that the RFP actually was very clear, saying housing plus services. And I don't know if it's a child care or community center component, but that's encouraging that folks are looking at it that way.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I'll ask, and I see Laura's comments too in the chat, that I think it's an example of sort of the opportunity of the task force. Like, we're sitting down across agencies to talk about housing development from HLC and when services could be part of the RFP, and making that kind of a standard kind of expectation. That's exactly kind of the opportunity that I think the task force has created, which doesn't mean it's fixed overnight. It's so complicated. Federal rules, state rules, private funding, developers, childcare requirements, and licensing. But considering it's like really the two top issues that we hear from our working families, housing and childcare, that not figuring out how to do some solves of those together, it just doesn't make sense. So we do have that opportunity now. So Dana or others from the task force team, anything else on the sort of collaboration with HLC?
I think you covered it really well. I am going to just drop the task force email into the chat as well if anyone wants to reach out about getting more involved in our working groups. I know the housing one in particular has been top of mind for us and one of the things we're sort of leaning into heavily for year 3. So excited about this discussion. I'll drop that in right now.
Yeah, so folks have direct experiences and like problems that we could try and figure out how to solve through the structure, or ways to be thinking about the planning going forward. We'd love your help. Other comments or questions for me or the task force team right now? Go ahead, Laura.
Sorry, I'm back from 2 weeks of vacation and learning how to use Zoom again.
I'm so glad you didn't have to Zoom on vacation.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to, first of all, this is terrifically comprehensive, both work, but also a really comprehensive update. So I just want to thank EEC and the project team for that. And just, and I love the housing discussion and co-location, so important. And it also reminded me as I was just beginning to flip through the slides that there are potential intersections of various strategies around small business support and FCCs, around housing co-location, around even the on-site community college work. So I know the incubator concept is actually one that we're now exploring in all of those settings. So I just wanted to put a pin in that, and I'll be happy to follow up with Dana and Gabby. But there are places where, yeah, it could be really hard to open a traditional center on a community college. But if they've got an entrepreneurship program, you know, there might be a way that the small business version of childcare access through FCC providers or incubators could be an innovation that addresses two goals at the same time. So I love that you're looking cross-agency, and I also see real opportunities to link some of the strategies periodically.
That's a great comment. And I think there was just an article in I think it was in the Times, or maybe it was on the radio, about Colorado and what they're doing in some of their rural communities to think about co-locating housing, individual housing, and family childcare development. And I think just in the last 2 weeks, we saw the second incubator get launched in Worcester at the Guild of St. Agnes. So this is about sort of using space within our center-based programs to incubate our family childcare programs and providers. So I think it's that kind of like, you know, and that requires a look at our regulations and how they might be shifted. So I think, again, the opportunity to really think innovatively and differently about existing things that are happening, whether it's entrepreneurship or housing, and then asking the question, how does childcare fit here? Other comments or questions? Oh, it was on Marketplace, right? Okay, Risdall, thanks, Ashley. Okay, well, if there's no more on the task force right now, again, if you didn't get enough today, you can hear a repeat performance at the EEC board meeting, and then there will be a task force engagement on the 9:30 call. So, and a press release probably about the release will go out later today. So we'll be sharing, and probably sharing on social media and other places, so people are aware that the second year task force report is out, and looking forward to an event likely in May to launch year 3. Okay, I think we are going to move on, Addison, to an update on the EEC portal projects. Okay, family portal. Am I handing to Jessie?
I believe I'm kicking it off.
Jessie, great. Jessie Murray, our Chief Product Officer.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. as mentioned, I'm Jessie Murray. I'm the Chief Product Officer here at EEC. So my team sits at the intersection between the program teams at EEC and the EOE IT side of things. And we have some quick high-level updates for you on both of our portal projects, starting with what we've been referring to as our family portal. We are in the process of branding this as My Childcare MA. This is ultimately going to be the place where families apply or add themselves to the wait list, apply for childcare financial assistance, and our family access administrators will do the eligibility determination within the same system. We're looking at a phased approach for rolling out our features, just trying to balance getting things out the door with change management concerns. And the first piece of our functionality that will be available to the public is scheduled for early mid-May. Internally, we are saying May 6th. And what this piece of functionality will allow is that we will be migrating our existing wait list to our new system, and families who are looking to add themselves to the wait list can do so in a self-service way, and at that time provide information in the form of an application. This is going to be a mobile-friendly, available in multiple languages system. We will have a subsequent release that will be more focused on the eligibility determination and some of the tooling for the later part of the process. We also have been working hard to keep this in sync with one of our other billing and payment system you may be familiar with, called CCFA, to try to minimize the amount of manual data movement that our partners are being asked to do. And so right now, what we anticipate is that we will get through this first release, immediately be moving on to that next release, looking at the eligibility review portions, as well as receiving referrals for children who are coming in via DTA or DCF. And then we also have additional funding for an additional phase of development after that, which will be informed by how families, how our CCR&Rs, how our programs are using it, and where they have feedback on how to improve or where there are other opportunities to make the system even better. If you want to go to the next slide. I won't go into all of the details here, but we anticipate that the technical development will be ready at the end of this month. There are a lot of different work streams that we're trying to land to make sure that this thing is ready to go, especially having adequate training out there for all of the folks who will be working with this system. And so that additional timeline will give us time to build out robust training, make sure all the screenshots are up to date, make sure all of the work that needs to be translated is fully translated. And I know that Tyrese's team in particular is hard at work on a lot of policies and procedures drafts that we'll have out the door. Like I said, we'll continue to iterate over time on this with a subsequent release in the summer, as well as future iteration on top of that will be driven by real user feedback. Tyrese, is there anything that you'd like to add before I jump to the professional portal?
No, we're excited. We're excited.
And are you guys organizing like a retirement party for Kinderweight? Because I think a lot of people might enjoy going to that party.
That should be a work stream in itself, I think. I will let our project manager know.
Yeah, we'll be very happy to say goodbye to Kinderweight and to welcome some of the other upgrades. Yeah.
Definitely. I will say it's long overdue, probably way before I even joined EEC. So we're looking forward to the shift for everyone. And we think it really will shift the way that families work with us and then the way that we're able to work with families and reduce some of the administrative burden and move us to a better system overall. So more to come, more to come. We will be getting communication out soon just around what you can expect around timelines for trainings and other items specifically for our family access administrators. And thank you, Jesse.
Yeah, thank you, Tyrese. Addison, if you want to move on. So as mentioned earlier, what we had been calling the educator portal internally, we have officially dubbed the EEC professional portal. That name, many of you weighed in and gave us great feedback on directions here to try to be inclusive of all the folks that are going to be actually working in this portal. So really appreciate that. As you may know, the professional portal is live right now, but with the workflow specifically for EEC certification. Our hope is that the professional portal eventually becomes this one-stop shop for everything related to educators and workforce. And the next piece of that we hope to incorporate is we have procured a new learning management system. So you may know the current learning management system as Strong Start. The new one will also be called Strong Start, but it's going to be a different system on the back end, we think, with a much improved user experience. In order to launch that, we needed to do some work with the portal to make sure that you had a seamless experience, log in with the same credentials. If you've completed courses in the old system, have those travel to your new account and be associated appropriately. And there was a little bit of work to be done both on our side as well as on the new learning management system side, so that especially that login, that shared login using the MyMassGov credential could be used across both systems. We anticipate that the new Strong Start will feel like an extension of the portal and really start thinking about this more as one place versus two. We are anticipating that the vendor on the learning management side will complete their work within the next couple of weeks. This says late March or early April. I will say it's probably early April for that release. We will, as mentioned previously, make sure to put out a lot of communications about what to expect when, as we finalize that date. And as we move forward, again, this is a phased approach. We will want to be able to pull in history of the EEC certifications that you earned through previous systems and workflows. And we will want to tackle the registry system after this and incorporating that into the portal. So hopefully you won't have to have a separate PQR account, by the end of this year. If you go to the next slide, Addison. Again, this is very high level. I won't go into all of this, but we're working concurrently with both the program and the portal side on these various workflows. I will also hand it off to Jocelyn in a second, but we're trying to think about what is that unified user experience? How can we minimize the number of places and the administrative burden for programs and educators in accessing and using our systems? And we are anticipating a lot of iteration over the next year. But more to come on the LMS launch, the Strong Start launch very soon. Jocelyn, is there anything that you would like to add specifically on the professional portal side?
I think I just, first of all, reiterate and emphasize the point you made that this will be a one-stop shop for everybody instead of having multiple different systems that have to be navigated. It really is, there is a portal, and then within the portal, you can get to a learning management system. And I think increasingly these won't be separate systems. This will be the way in which you access training and track completion of training that feeds directly into a system that provides the information needed to advance in your qualifications, and it becomes a holistic thing, even though right now we're sort of pulling these disparate systems in. Ultimately, that's the vision for what this will look like. I will also just highlight that it is such a great opportunity to be building the system. At the same time, we are also developing a new credential. Again, this timeline shows both of those things and how they're working together, the ways in which we're moving from, on the program side, drafting the pathways and building out, in particular, the new trainings that will support access for those outside of higher education to advance professionally. This new system becomes a really critical point of intersection and way to access and understand what those trainings are, and then also track completion of those. So I think in this timeline, you can see sort of where we are in developing some of the trainings that we're thinking about. And at the same time, how the portal develops from, sort of launching the portal and the dashboard right now to building in access to the LMS through the portal, access to current certification through the portal, and then over time moving to bring the registry functionality in. And then when we start looking at moving towards a new credential, we can build the functionality in to advance in that credential. Again, trying to make this as seamless as possible. I will just say, though, this is complicated on the back end. There are 3 different systems that have to work together. You have people across all of those different systems hard at work trying to make this happen. So also just ask for a little patience when we, maybe hit a road bump here or there. And please feel free just to reach out and let us know if something's not working smoothly, because we are also really committed to the user experience and to building the system around seamless access for users as the goal. Jesse didn't talk about this, but there's a whole other side project that we are also working on and looking at that user support system as well to make sure that it is also a seamless support system for a seamless system.
Great. Do you want to stop sharing, Addison, so we can have a little conversation? I just want to add, I think you can. So first of all, that they were able to get these on 2 slides for each of the updates. I mean, literally, it is like 6 planes flying that they're trying to land in the right succession, and it crosses like all the divisions at EEC. It's our regs, it's policy, it's IT, it's so fiscal, and so just reiterating the patience and grace. I'm so excited about the vision we have here for a much more human-centered design for our system that is truly responsive to the needs of our educators and will facilitate meaningful career pathways, and for families, a respectful modern experience that is centered around how they want to do business with us. But doing that is going to require a lot of moving parts coming together, and the teams have been doing an amazing job and just being able to communicate the multiple paths that are happening. So I believe we are going to get there. I know we are, but it could be a little bumpy along the way. There could be some turbulence. So your patience and grace, and for those of you who have already engaged with us so deeply on user experience and policy revisions and the credentialing work, all of that is feeding into this sort of future state that we're starting to see come to kind of focus on the horizon. So, all right, Steve, go ahead.
Thank you. And this is really, really exciting and really great, because I think this takes what might be multiple usernames for our staff and brings it into one place. They lose the links, they lose their username, they lose their password. It all gets challenging. And so having it under one umbrella would be really, really terrific. The only thing I would ask for to add to this, and I see licensing staff is able to peek in at portal records. We as employers would also love access to be able to look into our staff's records and help them along and understand what's going on down the road. And it just really so we can help our staff evolve. Every staff comes at a different place. And so some will grab this and run with it. Others will have difficulty at every step. So any backdoor we could have into the system as well to verify credentials, to verify trainings were finished, things of that nature would be really, really helpful.
Yeah, Steve, I can speak to that a little bit. It's not on the timeline that we shared, which is sort of this section, but we have a 2 to 3 year timeline that we've mapped out. And one really important step that will come is connecting educator accounts to the program account so that you can start having a roster of all your educators and we can start building that type of functionality into the system. I will also say something that we're discussing, although I don't have a clear answer, is that issue of how do you support your educators and recognizing that you guys sometimes are an important part of the support system and thinking about, sort of how we can make that, make sure we're giving you the tools to do that as well will be an important part of the conversation.
Thank you. Some of them treat these systems like I treat my LinkedIn, right? I haven't updated it in forever because I'm not looking for a job. So, someone needs kind of the back end stuff to help it along.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, great point that the programs, I feel like this a lot around the background record check system, the programs have a role in making sure the system is working and that the teachers and the educators and staff that are working with you are keeping up to date with their requirements, but also moving along their own professional paths. So I think that's a great point. Okay, any other comments or questions on the portals? We'll have much more, we'll continue to be updating you as it comes along. Right. And maybe even your staff who are dedicated to professional development have some kind of special role here too. So it's a great point. Okay. We are going to move to the last agenda item. So I'm going to turn over to Jocelyn, right, to talk a little bit about this new reporting requirement we got through the FY25 budget and how we are proposing to meet this requirement.
Okay, and I'm not going to read the slide, but the slide summarizes the expectations of the legislative report. It's effectively an opportunity for us to report to the legislature on our workforce pipeline work, and there's some, you can see in the green box, sort of very specific points that they wanted to make sure that we touched on in this report. I think it's important to recognize that we're putting this together, and part of the requirement is that we're doing this in collaboration with the Workforce Council. So wanted to bring to you an introduction to the report. Once it's drafted, we will certainly send it around for any comments and feedback that you have. But this is an opportunity to summarize work that has been done. I think all of the credential and educator work that EEC has been doing, as well as really highlight some of the work that's come out of the task force work as well as some of the task force recommendations in response to the desire the legislature had for recommendations. Get to the next slide. So this summarizes the areas of focus for the report and some of the particular work streams that we will be calling out in the work. We'll be looking at highlighting the pathways that we're developing, both new and expanded pathways, the ways in which we're focusing on supporting improvements to compensation and benefits for educators. And I think we during the task force report had a really great conversation about the opportunity here, but the ways in which the family childcare educators can also be supported as a business. On the pathway side, I think the credential obviously provides the framework for all of our pathway work. And in particular, I just want to call out, and we do discuss in the report, the ways in which we're focusing on building pathways, both through higher education as well as through ongoing professional learning. And in higher education in particular, some of the work that is discussed in the report is the work in developing a foundational certificate with the community colleges and the very important role that Career Pathways provides in supporting that work and supporting educators' access to those opportunities. It's also focusing in on the registered apprenticeship work that we're doing in collaboration with the Division of Apprentice Standards. It's really been fun working with them over the last few years, and particularly getting to a place where I think we can start creating guidelines for what an aligned apprenticeship looks like in supporting educators and moving into, in particular, these higher education pathways and building out the supports available in the field around apprenticeships and mentorships, and an integrated opportunity to enter into the field. We are also sort of expanding on that work through some of the task force work as well, continuing to work with adding in collaborations with ComCore and other groups to really think about the ways in which we build that type of alignment work across the workforce support system. And finally, also focusing in on Chapter 74 schools and the work that we're doing to continue to build these opportunities and also build the alignment within that system. On the compensation and benefits side, we're looking at both the ways in which we can directly support increases in compensation for educators. Commonwealth Cares for Children is one important component of that. But again, going back to some of the task force work and thinking about finding ways to offer discounts to educators. The Early Childhood Scholarship, which continues, as well as the new loan repayment program, which just put a plug in, has just launched and is now available and being run by DHE as well. Those are also
not yet launched. Not yet launched.
Oh, sorry. About to launch. You're right. Next week. Hopefully. And both of those are opportunities to support educators in accessing higher education at low or no cost, which is a real value and benefit for educators as well. And then I think the healthcare work was referenced in the task force discussion. There's similar looking into ways in which to provide access for educators to retirement savings accounts, which is also underway as part of the task force work. So really looking at this as a collection of approaches coming at the issue from many different directions. And then on the business supports for family childcare, I think we talked a lot already about the FCC incubator work. It's a really important component of this. The business front door was also discussed. EEC is also developing a program to provide pre-licensing support for those who are interested in becoming an FCC and getting some mentorship and training and support around understanding our license requirements and what has to be done to become a licensed provider and supporting them through that process. And then we also do have capital grants available right now for FCC educators to support their capital expenses as well, and continue as we develop each of these pieces to think about the integration and the ways in which these parts work together, which I think was called out really nicely in the task force discussion. And I think also something that's important to recognize. So this gives you an overview of what will be in the report. There isn't anything I think that's new here or that we haven't discussed. Either through the task force conversations or prior conversations that we've had with you, but it is an opportunity for us to share the work and, sort of bring the legislature along in understanding where the agency is in addressing the workforce pipeline. Commissioner, do you have anything you want to add?
Sorry, again, new technology, finding the mute button here. No, I think we wanted to open it up a little bit. I guess it is our opinion that that we are not creating a new set of recommendations and a new set of workforce strategies, but that what we are doing here is reporting on the really good work that's happening already at the agency around credentialing, the impact of C3, increases in rates, and other things that are impacting, plus the work that's already happening on the task force, which really collected a lot of the recommendations that folks in the field have about compensation and benefits and business supports for family childcare. So it was not our approach to think we should create a brand new workforce strategy and plan. We've just launched our 5-year strategic action plan, which includes a lot of this work looking out to the next 5 years. So in the vein of sort of organization effectiveness and expediency, I think our proposal to all of you as advisors to us in the development of this report is that we should report on the work that we're already doing, the progress we've already made in the areas for further development that have presented as we've done this work along the way. And so happy to take any feedback and thoughts on that. Eric, go ahead.
Yes, so thank you, I think, for I think there is a lot going on. One area that I am always passionate about is when I see the compensation and benefits, particularly around insurance, and knowing that the insurance world is changing. I don't know if things have changed, obviously, since the report is out, given the state trying to control health insurance costs as well. It just isn't as appealing a pot as it once was, let's say at the beginning of the task force project. So I'm interested if you have any thoughts there.
Meaning the changes in federal subsidies to self-employed individuals and small businesses, and how that's changed the expense and access to healthcare.
And then change to the state's plan as well. I know there's a lot of pushback there to try and control costs as well. So if the state is already trying to bring costs down for its existing pool, how that translates differently to folks who are not yet able to access that pool, right, at this time, right? So it's just a different target. Seems like the target may be moving a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if our task force colleagues stayed, but I think that, so the group that's been engaging with Mass Health and the Health Connector around healthcare benefits, I think that's a great frame, question, update for them to be thinking about as they do that work. Eugenia?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in quickly. I think we've talked about that a lot with our partners at Mass Health, and there's two things that we're thinking of, like how we can support folks in this time when we know insurance is really expensive and challenging, but also how we can make sure that you are all informed if there's any changes coming through. So we were actually talking about this last week about having some more sessions in June. And part of that goal is there may be some federal things that change in October so that folks know what's changing, what that looks like, and then what folks' options are as well. So didn't fully answer your question, Eric, but we're definitely concerned about it and would be very open to talking more and partnering on anything that you guys see our needs.
Thank you.
Commissioner, you muted. Sorry.
Yeah, and we know the healthcare cost increases. It's challenging our school districts. It's challenging our early education and care providers. It's challenging our small business owners and individuals too. So certainly a financing challenge for the entire state and its impact on our educators and the systems around them. So I think we'll incorporate that for sure into the work we're doing with the task force cross agency. We know our governor will continue to advocate against policies that are increasing healthcare costs in Massachusetts. Okay. Any other comments? Task force, portals, our workforce report. I think we will draft something and send it around at least to the Workforce Advisory Council as our advisors on that to see if folks have thoughts on that before we send it along. Wow, I thought we had like a 25-pound agenda in like a 15-pound time, but we made it. Well done, EC team. Kim, go ahead.
I just had a quick question on the related to the task force activities, which I will say, I think I popped it in the chat earlier, like just tremendous amount of progress in year 2. I mean, year 1 was special, but year 2 looks like even better. Like the sequel was better than the original, perhaps, in the first year. That doesn't always happen, but there's a lot more movement, and I appreciate that. I was wondering if there's tracking happening to understand kind of that the usage of some of these programs and navigators and other components that are kind of coming online, Business Front Door and other pieces to understand, to keep mining the understanding of what the needs are and how do we keep helping people connect to those resources that are available.
Gabby, do you want to take that? Yeah,
I'm happy to jump in on the Business Front Door specifically, Eugenia, maybe if you want to speak to Mass Health Connector. So on the Business Front Door, we use Salesforce. So what like any organization would use to track interactions with a user. So we're able to track the number of inquiries that have come in, what they're asking about, who they've been connected to, not only within our own agency, but our partners at other agencies. What the platform doesn't give us is what happens after that. So did they apply to a grant and subsequently receive it? And so that's the part where, how was the experience? Was there something they were interested in, but they didn't really fully understand it, and then they couldn't really take advantage of it? On the flip side, what's an example of an exceptional interaction that they may have had with our cross-agency partners? So that's the part we're focusing on now, is really closing that feedback loop. And so that is probably the first thing that I will have the dedicated navigator work on as part of their onboarding, is partner with me on reaching out for interviews to everyone who has submitted a business front door inquiry, to really understand the experience and what we can be doing better to better support folks who are coming to us through that platform.
Gabby, do you want to just mention a little bit about what we're going to be tracking on the Employer Child Care Innovation Pilot?
Oh, yes, of course. Yes. Okay. So in the Employer Child Care Innovation Fund grant, we'll be tracking a number of metrics. So one, on the RFP, we specifically asked applicants to share the outcomes they're hoping to drive and how they plan to measure those, because there is an expectation that the grantees will be doing some of their own measurement as well, right? Whether it's employee sentiment or something like that. Some of the key areas we're trying to drive on the workforce aspect is the employer focusing on attracting talent, retaining talent, a little bit of both, but really asking them to focus in on that. And then also thinking about, how are we measuring or understanding a return on investment for employers, so we can really make the business case for why this should continue on beyond when state government has funding for the program itself. We will, of course, also be tracking how many seats are impacted, looking at the communities from which the families who benefit from the program are coming from, right? From like an income perspective, and other underrepresented groups that we call out. We're looking at industry, so understanding the industries and really aligning those to the key priority industries of the Commonwealth. So it's hefty. It'll likely be a mix of some quantitative measurement, as well as qualitative, like focus groups and interviews. And then we will also have a community of practice that grantees are expected to participate in, that will meet quarterly.
Yeah, and I'll just speak to a lot of the things that were presented today from the task force. We've done a lot of like info sessions with, and have been trying to track in different ways. Depending on the program, it looks a little bit different, but we usually will have some place where we can see where folks are coming in from, and if they're coming in from early ed, then we can get those numbers to see who's accessing the benefits. Sometimes it's really easy, like the number of devices that was given out. Sometimes it's a little bit longer of a runway. So for like the Health Connector for Business, it's like a business maybe taking a couple of months to get all their folks onto health insurance through the Health Connector for Business, but we're still trying to keep an eye on those things. I will say, and many of you probably get a lot of emails from me whenever we get information about a good grant or a wonderful program. Basically every other state agency reaches out to us being like, oh my gosh, your folks showed up. They had really thoughtful applications. They had really important things that they want to do with this funding. So typically we come in pretty strong. And I think that's thanks to all of you, and really making like a lot of people start to access those benefits really fast. So I appreciate anyone who's ever forwarded an email out from me or from LEAD that shared a grant opportunity, because people are taking advantage and are being successful in those grants, which is really exciting.
It's a great way to end. I mean, it's been our experience through the task force, I have to say too, that nobody said no. Like, we just called up the Division of Insurance and said, hey, can you meet with us about insurance and liability insurance for childcare programs? And they were like, yes, of course. Can we add childcare to the business front door. Yes. So you are showing up to reinforce why that makes sense for those other agencies, and they're showing up for us. So, okay, thanks very much to the EC team and to all of you. I'm really excited to share this update, and we'll look forward to seeing you next quarter. For the workforce advisory members, keep an eye out for a draft of the report probably coming out for you to take a quick look at. And otherwise, be well in the changing New England weather and climate, and we'll see you all very soon.